Welcome to Excel 2010 Business Math video number 37. Hey, if you want to download this workbook, Excel 2010 Business Math Chapter 4, click on the link below the video. Whoops. Hey, this is Chapter 5. We're going to talk a little bit about banking. Our topics, we have 4 videos. Checks and deposits and withdrawals at your bank, calculating checking fees, creating a checkbook register in Excel, and then bank reconciliation. We're going to start on the sheet checking. All right, so banking services, they certainly have changed a lot in the last 10 to 15 years. Traditional banking, writing checks, keeping a checkbook register by hand, and visiting a teller. A lot of people don't do that anymore. Some people still do, but businesses especially don't do that, at least large businesses, medium-sized businesses. Online banking is the trend of the future, and many businesses use that. That means probably writing fewer checks, keeping a checkbook register on a computer, whether in Excel or QuickBooks or whatever accounting system you have, using direct deposit to get money to go back and forth between the business and customers. Bill pay, you go online and you pay your bills automatically. Credit cards, and then secure our online site to conduct banking business. So pretty much everything, right? You can apply for loans, apply for credit cards, check your balances, reconcile your accounts, all sorts of things. So business checking account. Now you got to shop around, right? I used to have a business in California, a boomerang manufacturing company, and we had Bank of America, and they charged us a lot of fees. And then I became a teacher up in Washington, Seattle area, and I found BECU, Boeing Employee Credit Union. And it's similar to many credit unions. It is owned by the people who deposit their money. That's the definition of a credit union. And usually the fees are much lower and the interest is much higher. So credit unions are just a smart way to go. Also online banks, E-Trade. In the late 90s and early 2000s, I had not only an E-Trade trading account, but an E-Trade bank account. They were just one of the great leaders in early online banking. Nice thing about both of those options is, again, you can get all sorts of benefits without as high. The fees aren't as high, and in some cases you can get interest where other checking accounts or saving accounts might not. All right, so let's talk about making payments and receiving payments for business. So making payments, our business is paying someone else. Well, we certainly could use cash. We certainly could write a check. But here's the deal. That has decreased dramatically. 2000, maybe 50% of the transaction by consumers with a check. Now it's down to 18, and that will continue to go down as more and more people get comfortable with online banking. Credit cards and debit cards. Now this is from our business making a payment, because there's two sides to credit cards. One is when you use it. So the business is using it to pay someone else. So my boomerang manufacturing company had to go buy wood or paint, so we could use a credit card to pay them. When you use a credit card, you go into debt. You owe the money and you pay it later. You must pay it later. If you don't, you get charged a fee, right? So most credit cards, and credit cards are as varied as bank accounts. You always got to look at your contract. But credit cards, slide the card. You do that throughout the month. If you pay it off at the end of the month or the end of next month or whatever the contract says, you usually don't get paid interest. So that can be a good way to go, right? But if you don't pay off your balance, then you have to pay interest. Debit cards are similar, except for credit card, you go into debt. Debit card just means when you slide it, it's immediately withdrawing the cash from your bank account and going to someone else. So if I was buying wood for my company, I'd slide it. The money would immediately come out of my account and go into the account of the person selling the wood. All right, electronic payments. There's all sorts of different kinds. Bill pay, direct deposit, all sorts of things. Bill pay. Absolutely, this is growing quickly. This is the future of payments. I've been doing it for many, many, many years. It's just awesome and convenient. Direct deposit, too. Actually, this is direct withdrawal, because this is us paying. And that would be great if we were to pay someone and actually put the money in our account. That'd be great. Direct withdrawal. So both of these are just ways that you go to your online bank and you get money to go from one bank to another. Prepaid or direct withdrawal. That's we just mentioned that. Prepaid cards, you can get a card and use it to swipe, and again, then the amount on the card is immediately reduced. PayPal. PayPal is incredible. This is what a great invention, right? You have to join PayPal and have some money at the PayPal account, but then you get to online send people money from your PayPal to their PayPal. The thing about PayPal is it is more secure than a credit card transaction. And the reason why is when you use PayPal, no financial information is given between either party. When you use a credit card, you have to give someone your credit card number, right? The only thing about PayPal is you got to be careful. There's been a lot of email scams over the years. And as long as you don't, fall prey to their email scams, absolutely amazing. And it's worldwide, right? You can exchange money anywhere around the world. Mobile phones is also something that's coming in the future. Continents like Africa, Asia already use a lot of mobile phones to, hold their mobile phone up and they can make a payment. Even some places in the United States are doing that. All right, receiving payments. This is our business getting paid from somewhere else. All the same options, right? We can receive cash. We can receive a check, which we then deposit. We'll talk about checks in just a moment. Credit cards, big difference. If you're paying with a credit card, usually you don't get paid you don't have to pay any extra fee if you pay off your balance. But if you're the business, the little credit card machine is on your counter, right? And the customer's coming to you and slide it, you get charged. So when you slide the card and the customer pays you $100, the credit card company charges you a fee, maybe whatever it is. We'll see how to calculate those later. But you get charged some amount, and so you will receive $98 in your account soon. Now, it usually shows up pretty quickly. So the main thing to remember is with credit cards and debit cards, if you're the business and you're getting paid from the customer, the credit card company charges you a small amount. Electronic payments, you can automatically receive payments when someone on the other side is paying you. Direct deposit into your account. Direct deposit's listed here too. Back in the early 90s, we bought boomerangs from a French company. And the very first time we sold boomerangs to the French company, it was actually LMI and Fox. So Gel Boomerangs was the company I had. I sold LMI Fox boomerangs in France. And they sent me a French check. It took me months, and that's not a joke, months to figure out, to get the bank to collect on it. So of course, the next time I sent them a correspondence and says, please use direct deposit. And then the money just comes from one bank to the other. Again, prepaid cards, PayPal, and mobile phones can be used to receive payment. All right, now we want to go over to the sheet checks. All right, so the sheet checks, we have an example of a check up here, and we just want to take a look through this. Now up here, this is Sue's accounting. So Sue has an accounting business. And Sue's writing a check to Home Depot for $158.70. So this is Sue, and Sue signed it down here. Sue is called the payor. The person we're writing it to, pay to the order of, that's the payee. So we're writing it to Home Depot. So up in the corner we have Sue, the name of the business and the address, and it could have other information, telephone number, etc. All the way over on the right, that's the check number. So there's sequential checks, 4,000. Actually, let me zoom in here. Alt-WG to selection. So we have our check number right here, and it's very important with checks to have sequential numbering, right? So 4025, 4,025, 4,026, 4,027, right? And if there's a missing number, you know something's going on. You got to investigate. Then right below, this number right here is the ABA number, and it represents, it has a little like fraction bar. The top part says, it gives information about the bank, city, etc. And the bottom is the Federal Reserve number. Federal Reserve Bank number. Now I'm going to undo that, Control Z to undo that zoom. All right, then we have paid to the order of. The payor, the payee, so we're paying Home Depot. We have our date, whatever date that is, then that determines when you can cash it. Now the amount, you have to write the amount, and obviously this is done on a computer, but you want to write it as close to the amount and the dollar sign there, and don't leave any room for anyone to write an extra number in there, and then write the number out. Down here, the amount line, you have to use word. So all the way back in Chapter 1, we learned how to take any number and write it here. Now, this says $158.70. Really, you don't have to put the dollars because the dollar's there. But here's the deal. You want to write the number, and then if there's still space, put a dash all the way to the end. And guess what? If there is a discrepancy between the words and the number, the words win. 10 years ago or something, I wrote a huge check, and it was for like $7,000. And I wrote, for whatever reason, something 6,000 down here and 7,000 up here. And so, of course, later, it's the 7,000 here, the 6,000 was here, so the bank gave them the 6,000. Of course, I got a $1,000 bill later because there was a discrepancy, and they took the words. Here's the bank's information. So Sue and her business, Sue's Accounting, has her bank account at BECU. Here's the payor, writing a signature, and whatever signature you use should match the card kept by the bank. Down here is a memo. You always want to write what the check was for. And then here is this number at the bottom. And it has information. If you see up here, you can see the 420 and the 1210. So that number's down here. The checking account number, and then the check number. Now, this is before you give it to the bank. After you give it to the bank, there's some extra numbers here. The actual number, 158.70, will be down here. Now, here I have a PDF, or some old checks from years ago. Here's the front. And you can see, actually, I'm going to write, whoops, Control Z. Those little red triangles means there's a comment. So if you hover your cursor, pops up. I'm going to right click and then say show hide comments. All right, so look at this. This check was for $74.42. And after you deposit it, these numbers appear at the bottom. And this is the number that determines how much is taken from your account. So 7442, right? And again, you write the check, you write $41.91, and later this number appears, and when the computer does its work, it reads that number there. So that number determines the amount. If there's ever a mistake, right, you could have written really sloppily here, and it has a certain number here that's different. That's the amount that's taken from your account. And so when you do your bank reconciliation, you have to figure out that that's the difference. Let's look at the back of the check. I'm going to right-click hide comment. It just makes it so that it pops up. Boop. Now look at this. Here's the back. I'm going to right-click show hide. After you write the check, so Sue wrote this check, right? Gave it to Home Depot. Home Depot then deposited it into the account. And eventually the check comes back to your account because you wrote it. In the old days, you used to, so this check right here, you get at the end of the month, I got this huge envelope with all these checks, and then I had to take them, look through them, make sure they were correct, right? That doesn't happen anymore. You can, I think even if you request them now, what happens is they give you a picture of it because they destroy the checks. So online, usually, if you do your reconciling, you can see pictures and actually print them out of your checks. But look on the back. There is a stamp that says when the check was deposited. So here on the front of this check here, the bottom one is to Pacific Bell. So I wrote the check to Pacific Bell. This is when they deposited it, and this is when it got to our bank. And these marks on the back are proof. So if Pacific Bell says, you didn't pay me, you have, in the olden days, you had the actual check. Now you have the picture of the check, and you say, I don't think so, right here. Right? And so this is excellent proof for you to prove that this person was paid if there was any dispute. And again, these are, you can get pictures from your bank, or if you do online banking, they're there. All right, and not just for businesses. Everyone who has online bank more or less has these. All right, I'm going to hide this comment. Now, again, the most important thing about this is that's really good proof if there's ever a dispute. And that is why people still like to use checks a lot. All right, but again, bill pay is just totally amazing feature. Don't have to write out checks. Just go to your website, fill out the information, put how much is in there, and click the send. All right, let's go over to check stubs. The check stub sheet. Again, check stubs can look lots of different ways. And people still use checks. And people actually, if you have a program like QuickBooks or you have other computer systems, they'll print your checks out, and then there's a record inside of your accounting system. But people still do, in business, will write some checks, especially smaller businesses. Right? So here's the check, but off to the side, when you're writing all the checks, there'll be a little ledger over here, a check stub. And you should always write everything here, because this is your record. Later, when you go into your accounting records, you use this. So you have the date, the amount. Here's Home Depot purchase. Here's the balance brought forward. That means from the previous check down at the bottom. Right? That's how much we had from the last check. So you write it there. And if you were going to do it with a formula, and actually some of your homework problems are like this. Right? Here is the balance brought forward. We don't have any amount deposited here. All right, so the total right here, we don't have any deposits, so we simply add these. So if you deposited some amount here, we would add. So there's the sum function. I did Alt equals $5,000. All right, and amount this check. I'm going to just reference that up here. And then this is the balance brought forward. Well, here, that's the amount minus the check we just wrote. Now, really, this is kind of silly to do in Excel, although you're going to have to do it for a few homework problems. But this is almost always something you do by hand off to the side, right? Or maybe you have this little template here, and you always do your calculation here. All right, let's go over and look at deposit slips. There's just a deposit slip. Probably most of us have done this. Here's the date. Any currency we have, that's the bills. Any coins, checks, and if there's a bunch of checks, you can list them on the back. So there's the numbers there. Subtotal, and net deposit. Types of endorsements. Now, there's many kinds of endorsements you can go put on the back of your check. Here's a blank endorsement, restricted, and qualified. Now, the blank endorsement, this is when you just sign your name, right? The problem with this, and by the way, these are 3 different checks. The problem with this is if you sign it before you go to the bank and drop it on the ground, that's a blank. That means you've signed it over to whoever has it. So you don't want to put your name like this and then carry it to the bank. You only would do this right at the moment of handing it to the bank. Much, much better is to get in this habit, a restricted endorsement. Even if you're at the window, handing your check over, or in this day and age, what do? You can actually go to your ATM machine and just, it'll scan your checks, and at least the BECU accounts and many others also. You scan your check in, and it will deposit it for you without an envelope or anything. Okay? But you should put for deposit only into this account and then sign your name. That means it's restricted. It's only going in. It's only for deposit. And here's a qualified endorsement. This says paid to the order of Sue Radkulinator without recourse. So you're, in essence, signing this negotiable instrument over to Sue. So the amount on the front becomes Sue. Now, if you say pay to the order of Sue Radkulinator without recourse, that means if the check's no good, Sue can't come back after you, right? So that's a type of qualified endorsement. Probably don't want to do this. This is probably what you want to do. All right. Next video, we will actually do some checking fees. Pretty basic math, but we'll do see how to do it in Excel and make a little template that we can use over and over. All right, see you next video.